Hey there, writers. Happy first day of spring. I hope everybody is doing well today. I wanted to talk about awareness of creative power because I've been hearing from a lot of writers, particularly within the past few days, that they've been having a hard time tapping into their creativity. And they're wondering, is it because I'm writing at the wrong time of day, or is it because I have to write from home now? Or is it because everybody's at home? With everything that's going on in the world, there's just a lot of external stuff that for sure is bringing in a different energy to our daily lives, and it's for sure affecting our creativity. But one thing that I want to kind of just have you think about before you start changing up the way you do things, especially if it's a routine that you've been doing for a while and suddenly it's not working for you. It may be that you have to kind of readjust things on the surface level for a little bit, given that the external circumstances in the world are a lot different. But it's also possible that that there's something going on beneath the surface that you might not be aware of, and that before you start changing up your whole routine, or changing the time of day that you write or how long you write or whatever it is, if you can get back to your basics, to the foundation of the root of your creative self, that would be actually my suggestion, especially now with the way things are going. Here's the thing. What you're focused on creates a feeling within you. And if you are, spending, say you're supposed to write at 8 o'clock in the morning, okay? But between 7 and 8 in the morning, you're reading the news. That's going to definitely put you into a certain state of mind that isn't exactly conducive to creativity, with a few exceptions, of course. But that's what you have to figure out for yourself. You have to figure out, okay, is reading the news before I start writing, is that the best way to access my creativity? Because that's setting the stage. Whatever you're doing right before you start creating, whatever you're focusing on right before you start creating, is setting the tone for your creative self and how you're accessing it. So, and it's totally fine. Here's the thing. If you are reading the news before you start creating, or, on social media, or doing something that may or may not be suitable for creativity, do not judge yourself, okay? Assess your situation without the judgment. Do not get on yourself. Oh, God, I told myself I wasn't going to go on Facebook, and I told myself I wasn't going to, scroll through social media, and here I am doing it, and then get all upset with yourself. Don't do that, because then you're just adding, you're just making a bigger, you're making the problem worse. Be aware, just observe without the judgment, because you'll be able to change it. You can change things easily. You can't change them easily once you start getting upset with yourself. So being aware and just kind of assessing your situation without the judgment is absolutely critical. Okay, so if you're finding that you're struggling and that you're not tapping into creativity like you normally do, go back to the basics and ask yourself, well, how do I want to feel when I am writing or creating? Who do I want to be while I'm creating? How do I want to show up to the world as a creator? everybody's going to have a different answer for all of those questions. And those answers will tell you, you know, where you're kind of missing a piece, okay? Assessing without the judgment will put you in a natural state of awareness. You'll be just kind of neutral. And this is a beautiful place from which to create, because now you have full access to your creative power. You then you'll be aware of all the choices that you can make for that day, or that particular writing session, because you won't have things, you know, you won't have any expectations kind of leading you in a certain direction, and you won't have any, you know, negative emotions like fear or anxiety leading you in a different direction. If you're in neutral, then you have a much better chance of accessing that creativity. It's easy to let the external forces kind of dictate where you're at and whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, or whether or not you're moving forward quickly enough or doing it right. And it's important to remember that if you are kind of in that zone by comparing yourself to somebody else, that's definitely going to block you from your creative power. So you need to not be there. So if you find that you're on Instagram scrolling through accounts and you see all these authors posting their success stories, and if that's, first of all, you should be really excited about that, because that's evidence that this whole gig that we're involved in is, you know, there's abundance there, right? But if you're kind of feeling jealous, or if it feels like now the clock is ticking on you, then that is not the thing to be doing before you start writing. And you need to cut that out of your routine before you start writing. If it's going to create any kind of negative feeling in you, then you need to cut it out of your routine altogether until you can find a way to make peace with it. Okay. Regardless, what other people are doing don't affect your creative power unless you let them. So be very aware of how you're taking in their information and whether or not you're using it in a positive or negative way. Once you're able to be in that neutral zone and accessing your creativity, you now have more choices available to you. You're able to make choices like understanding how you're going to spend your next writing session, or how you're going to approach your writing project, how things will look for the next month. Because there's no pressure, there's no anxiety, there's no fear. It's all about possibility. And that's exactly, that's where your power is possibility, the creative possibility that is absolutely yours for the taking. But you have to be tapped into it. And the best way to be tapped into it is to be feeling trust and acceptance of your creative power, and knowing that every single day it might look different, but that's the beauty of it. You can adjust with it, and you can make certain choices so that it works the way you intend it to work. Being aware from in the moment before you start creating, again, going back to the example of say you are supposed to write at 8 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing for that hour right before? Okay. Because that's a big one. Where is your focus right before you sit down to write? If it's on the news, if it's on the social media, which is upsetting you, if it's anywhere that's not feeding or nourishing your creative self, then you need to probably shift things around so that what you're doing leading up to your writing session is a nourishing task, whatever that might be for you. Some people do really well reading the news first and then creating. Okay, so if that's you, that's fantastic, and keep going. But that's something you have to understand about yourself, and that goes back to natural writing forces, which is something that I teach and help people understand. If once you know your strengths and your values and your belief systems and how all of that plays into your creativity, then you'll be able to work out an entire routine based on the way that you know, playing to your the best that you can bring to the situation, because we all have strengths, we all have gifts, and it's going to look different from one writer to the next. So knowing what your strengths are is absolutely imperative to help you access your creative power. And you don't jump into the action right away if you're feeling uncertain. Like that is not what you should be doing. Get mindful first, and whether or not that means meditation is up to you, but just be sitting still and being in that creative space that feels good to you is right before you actually create is the best way to access your creative power. And just as long as you're deliberate, okay? So that's like a big thing. If you're deliberate in your approach before you start creating, then you will be setting the tone for the ultimate creativity, okay? Be very conscious about the energy that's activating within you. You're bringing that to your project. You're bringing that to your sessions. You're bringing that to your revisions. So if you're struggling, go back, check your mindset. Make sure that everything is what you're doing surrounding your creative life is actually nourishing your creative life. All right. Definitely let me know if you have any questions or any comments, how this resonates with you. If this brings up anything for you, definitely let me know. I'm happy to jib-jab with you about it, okay? And I'm wishing everybody a great Thursday, and I will talk to you later. Take care.